This is the cheapest baseline M2 MacBook Air that you can buy from Apple right now, and it's about $1,200 USD. Now, I actually bought this and was super excited, but now I'm wondering, did I make a mistake? Is this even a good computer? Is it overpriced? What spec should I get? And is this the right computer for you? Make sure you guys watch till the end because I have some thoughts. All right, let's first talk about specs. The baseline M2 MacBook Air comes with 256 GB storage. Nope, don't like that. It's 2022. The OS itself takes up like 25 gigs, so essentially all you're left with is 225 GB, and honestly, that's just not enough. If you install like one game on this thing, boom, you're out like 50% already. Now look, you can make the argument that Tausif, I'll just get SSD storage and it'll be cheaper and I can use it with other computers and stuff, but what's the point of that? The whole reason you're getting this laptop is for the portability and the convenience factor of it. Now, there's absolutely nothing convenient about having to plug in an SSD all of the time, have it dangling around all over the place. You never know what's gonna happen. So that being said, you need at least 512 GB, but that does increase the price to $1,400 USD, which isn't cheap. Now, on top of that, another problem is it has the same issue the M2 MacBook Pro has, which is the 256 GB version uses a single SSD module versus a two smaller SSD module version on the upgraded versions. And I gotta tell ya, the 256 GB version with a single module is significantly slower than the rest of the lineup. Next up, 8 GB RAM of internal memory. I think 8 GB RAM for a starting point is just too low in 2022. You know how in cell phones initially we were okay with like 1 GB of like data? Now I get over like 30 GB and I still struggle to stay within that. As time progresses, we just need more storage and we just need more RAM. Nowadays, not only software, but even websites are starting to use more memory. So you can't just keep like 50 browser tabs open at the same time like we used to before. So I'd say 256 GB and 8 GB RAM are really starting to show their age. Besides the specs, let's actually talk about the performance of this machine. Now, this is the second generation to arguably one of the most significant advancements to modern computing for Apple. By designing and building their own chip about 2 years ago, Apple was able to unlock levels of computation and optimization and streamlining, which was never really possible before with an Intel off-the-shelf chip. When you get something off the shelf, the companies don't really make the chip for your particular laptop. It's the same chip that everyone else gets. So basically, by using their own custom in-house chip, it really opened the door to streamlining. I was able to edit entire videos on the M1 chip MacBook Air. No problems. Photos, no problems. I literally spent like 3 full months literally just editing videos for this particular channel, so the M2 MacBook Air is gonna be no different. The performance on these chips has gotten so good that I can edit content quieter, faster, and I don't even need to be plugged into a wall outlet. The battery life is just absolutely insane. I also love that Macs don't need to be plugged in order to get full power. Like sometimes, when you unplug like PCs, they throttle. With Macs, you don't get that throttling. But my number one question was, how does it actually perform over time without a fan? Now, the difference between having a fan and not having a fan, it's basically short use, burst usage, it's all going to be fine. But the moment you have sustained usage, it will start to throttle a bit. So things like video editing, long rendering, even gaming, anything that basically will light up all of the cores for a while, and that's where this laptop is also going to get tested. It also tends to get quite warm. Like if this is on your lap, you can actually feel it get hot, which, yeah, it's not fun. Next, let's talk about the build quality. We no longer have the wedge shape anymore. The wedge was actually tapered to appear thinner, but this way you actually get 11 inches overall, which is actually thinner. I like it and it feels so much more uniform and confidence inspiring to me. I think this was a good move. I like this entire uniform, square, rectangle. Rectangle's a square or squares are a rectangle? Damn, I've been out of school for a long time. Holy crap. That's like a basic thing. I should know that. The bezels are also a bit thinner around the new display, which allows them to get a slightly larger screen at about 13.6 inches. The notch, it's still there. It's part of Apple's design language now, so it's not going anywhere. But the good thing is it disappears when you start using it. The speakers, at first I was like, where the heck are the speakers on this thing? Later on I discovered that the speakers is in the hinge of the laptop and they're still fine. They're surprisingly great for the placement of the actual speakers. So overall, I really like the updated body. This is a super premium feeling machine. It looks great, it feels great, so even though you're paying a lot of money, it really feels like you're getting a lot of money, like something that is premium and is worth that much. And if you're somebody who's constantly on the go or traveling, this thing will fit pretty much anywhere. It's a treat to carry around. The Midnight finish, let's quickly talk about that. I did hear people say that fingerprints was an issue with this thing before I got it, and I have to agree, fingerprints is an issue. It's very noticeable on this thing, so you want to keep it clean. You want to keep wiping it down all the time. So if that is you, then you might want to throw a skin on here, or case on here, or get a different color. But if you don't mind, I mean, the color itself looks really nice. I like it. Now, one thing to note here, the paint can actually get scratched if you keep missing the ports with cables on the side. So that's something to note here. Now, another great thing about this laptop is you get MagSafe, and it comes with a color matching cable, which is kind of cool. But the fact that we have MagSafe here, it frees up another port and you get about 67 watts of charging. So I like the fact that now you technically have 2 extra ports of USB-C that you can still use while still charging with the MagSafe. That's pretty good. But look, my biggest qualm with Apple's ports, the Thunderbolt 3 port on this still won't allow multiple monitors to be plugged in. I don't get it, because in the past we've had MacBooks and computers where we were able to use a Thunderbolt 3 port to plug in multiple monitors, but lately it seems that Apple has taken away that feature from like the base M1 and M2 chips. I don't know what the issue is. Is it like a issue with the actual Apple chipset? I just can't fathom it. I can get over having just the 2 ports on this laptop, but this inhibition on a $1,200 laptop, it just doesn't make sense to me. Other than that, the keyboard, super comfortable to use. I actually really like this keyboard and how everything is spaced out and the clicks are really nice. Now that we've discussed pretty much the specs, the performance, the build quality, I kind of want to bring everything together and share with you my thoughts on this computer as a whole package. That's weird because technically you don't take a company's baseline product and try to throw professional level work at it and expect it to do well. And although it is very capable, in fact, I'd say most people wanting to make videos or photos or do all of that stuff won't really have issues. But when you get more complicated edits with effects and gradings and more processor heavy stuff, this thing will start to buckle. But I asked myself, why am I trying to do professional level stuff on Apple's entry level product? I wouldn't do that to other companies. And I think the answer has a lot to do with the fact of how Apple chose to price this machine with the combination of specs on their entry level M2 MacBook Air. I get that it's Apple and with it will come premium pricing. Heck, this is an extremely well put together, premium looking feeling laptop, no doubt. But price wise, it's a bit weird to me. It's priced in line with the rest of the laptops, right, when you look at Apple's lineup, but when you start looking at the specs that you're getting for the price that you're paying, and you're gonna wanna do that, hopefully, you're gonna be compelled to upgrade. And when you do, you're gonna start getting confused. Because look, at 256 GB, you're getting storage that is basically 50% slower than 512 GB, like I mentioned earlier. So now you're gonna wanna upgrade to 512 GB. Your price has moved up to $1,400. Next, 8 GB RAM. With everything that I mentioned earlier about how much websites are using and how much memory is being taken up nowadays with software, the memory will also fill up quickly. And when it does, it's gonna start spilling over to the SSD, which you're already lacking. So when all of this happens, you'll actually notice the computer get slower, and you don't really want that from a computer that you're going to spend $1,200 on. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to upgrade that 8 GB RAM to 16 GB RAM, at which point this laptop becomes $1,600. Now, if you put any more money, sink any more money into this laptop, you're pretty much in MacBook Pro 14-inch territory. And that computer is going to be much more powerful. It's going to have a much nicer screen. It's going to have more ports, including that SD card port, which you're going to need if you're in the creative space. So here's how I'd put it, basically. If the price is the #1 concern for you, if you need a computer that you're just going to be able to use daily and it's going to be nice and light and you're going to be able to throw it around and it'll give you great battery life and give you basic performance, the M1 MacBook Air, fantastic. I don't have any issues recommending that. And if you need performance, I just skip the M2 MacBook Air and I would spend a couple of extra $100 in order to get the 14-inch MacBook Pro. You're gonna thank me later because that's gonna give you much better performance, much more things that I mentioned earlier. So who exactly is this laptop for? If you are a regular user and you want the latest new body, new design, then sure, get the M2 MacBook Air. It's a great laptop. I think it's one of the most beautiful laptops. I think it looks better than the M1 MacBook Air. And I think if you don't need the thicker body of the 14-inch MacBook Pro and all the performance that computer has to offer, then the M2 MacBook Air it's a great laptop. But my only request to you is to think of this laptop not as a $1,200 laptop, but as a $1,600 laptop, because if you want this laptop to last in terms of longevity, you want it to be future-proof and everything like that, and it to be able to, handle everything you're gonna throw at it for the next, years and years to come, then yeah, you want to think of this as a $1,600 laptop with all the upgrades that I just mentioned. I really hope going forward, Apple makes 512GB and 16GB the starting point for their baselines, because it's 2022 and that would have just literally made this laptop so much better. In any case, I hope you guys found this video helpful and beneficial, and if you did, please go ahead and like this video, sub to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, stay blessed, peace.
Really?
This laptop is so light, I can even hold it up like this and watch content.